Also trending today, the New York Times, a daily newspaper company with worldwide readership, is facing lots of criticism for their, quote, biased coverage of trans people. Hundreds of journalists, organizations, advocates, and New York Times contributors sent a letter to the paper calling them out. Manisa Danabalan joins us to talk more about this issue. Manisa.
Kelly, advocates are calling it, quote, inaccurate, harmful trans coverage in the New York Times. But according to reports, there were several articles that came out that sparked the outrage. But now the New York Times has published another article about trans people without using their voices just one day after the call out.
Hundreds have signed 2 letters that were sent to the New York Times. Journalists and organizations saying there has been, quote, irresponsible, biased news and opinion pieces about the transgender community in the Times for more than a year now.
Just in the last 8 months, this is something that started beforehand, the New York Times has published 15,000 words of front page coverage debating the validity and effectiveness of transgender affirming care, the framing of gender affirming care as something that's some kind of debate, or that an equal debate. The New York Times has used the word battle to describe it.
GLAAD, the world's largest LGBTQ media advocacy organization, sent the letter yesterday referencing a list of Times articles with direct negative impacts for trans people. It includes Emily Bazelon's article in June 2022 called The Battle of Gender Therapy.
She interviewed a number of parents who in the article are framed as just, concerned parents worried about the rise of gender ideology. These parents are people who are affiliated with groups like GenSpect and the Alliance Defending Freedom, which are far-right anti-trans organizations with a vested interest in making trans care harder to access for youth. And that wasn't disclosed in that story. And to me, that's dishonest.
Advocates adding that this kind of coverage is harmful to the community.
To know that it is the paper of record for, many anti-trans policymakers are using it in courts of law to justify, some of the articles that have been written to justify pushing forward anti-trans policies and laws. It's life-threatening.
The release from GLAAD read, "We won't stand for the Times platforming lies, bias, fringe theories, and dangerous inaccuracies. We demand fair coverage. We demand that the Times platform trans voices as both sources and full-time writers and editors, and we demand a meeting between Times leadership and the transgender community."
Often when we see the news, it's really only negative topics that get coverage, and it's rarely coming from trans people or trans voices, even when it's opinion sections and that sort of thing. So I think having more of a platform and space for trans, non-binary, and gender diverse people to have a voice in the media is critical.
GLAAD even posted their views and demands on a billboard truck outside the New York Times building in Manhattan. In a response to media, the Times said, "Our journalism strives to explore, interrogate, and reflect the experiences, ideas, and debates in society to help readers understand them. Our reporting did exactly that, and we're proud of it." And today, the Times posted an opinion piece defending the author of the Harry Potter series who's been under fire for alleged anti-transgender views. The CEO of GLAAD referenced the opinion article called "In Defense of J.K. Rowling," saying a Times columnist who is not LGBTQ or respected in the community, now claiming to be an authority on what is and isn't transphobic, yet she doesn't quote a single trans voice.
Advocates say this isn't unique to the New York Times, that the media being invested in transphobia and creating a debate over gender-affirming care happens all over the world.